Hey YouTubes, this is Sabrock. I just read on the Wizards of the Coast website that they're developing the 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons. I'm a little bit excited about this, although no actual details of the game itself have been released yet, so I can't say whether or not I'm even interested. Um, Obviously, I will be keeping track of it because I am a big fan of D&D, but until I know more about the system, I can't say whether or not I'm going to play it. I imagine I will. I generally like things that Wizards of the Coast puts out. I think they generally produce a pretty high quality product. I'm optimistic. But since I have no facts yet, I have no details, I'm not making any judgment calls. This video is actually about people who don't follow that policy. They're making judgment calls just based on the fact that there's going to be a 5th edition, and we all knew it was going to come sooner or later. We just didn't know necessarily if it'd be this year, next year, the one after that. Is pretty much where we narrowed it down to. There's a lot of people on the official Dungeons and Dragons forums who uh, are either angry that there's a new edition or are excited that there's a new edition that or they're making a lot of conclusions or coming to a lot of conclusions without any information at all. And this is the exact same thing that happened when 4th edition was announced, and as more information came out, people were making all these grandiose conclusions about the game, and some of those ideas stuck around even to today. Wrong ideas about the game based entirely on rumors and out of context information from when the game was in development. Um, so if any of you out there are interested in D&D 5th edition, I would caution you, don't get too excited about it. Don't believe everything you see on the internet, because there will be lots and lots of rumors, and 90% of them will be untrue, or just completely made up. Things that I would like to see in D&D 5th edition, that and this is the list of things that I think might actually happen. There's a much bigger list of things that I don't think will actually happen, but I would like to see anyways. Item number 1, streamlined combat. And I know this is kind of a big thing that a lot of anti-4th edition people like to point out. The combat in 4th edition is not especially quick. Um, some battle encounters can take 2 or 3 hours to run through, depending on how they're designed. And I found that with my group. My group has a very limited playtime. We can play from 2 to about 8 or 9, 9 at the latest. So that gives us 7 hours of playtime, which means I could fit in two encounters if I plan it correctly. One at the beginning, one at the end, and we end the session right after the second encounter. Or sometimes we just sort of wrap up the second encounter real quick because we've run out of time. So if 5th edition could do something about that, and I think some of the main issues are several actions per turn. I think if we get turns down to one action and make it always something simple, like one attack, or obviously some classes will be able to attack more than others, but I mean, like, assuming that we stick with the power structure that 4th edition introduced, say, use one power per turn, that there aren't, you don't get a standard, a move, and a minor action every single turn, in addition to free actions and immediate actions, things like that. I think if we narrow it down to one action per turn, that will help streamline combat by making it so that each turn goes by faster and faster, or faster than they do now. Point number 2, and this I would be very cautious about changing from 4th edition. 4th edition has a different damage hit point balance than other editions of D&D. It has generally a higher hit point count for both player characters and non-player characters and monsters. And while it has depending on the level, it has either a higher or a lower damage output expectation. In general, it's going to, compared to the hit points of a given level, the damage output is much lower than in other editions. So other editions had higher damage, low hit points. Um, so battles were very, very swingy because you could take out several monsters at once with a single area of effect attack, or reliably always take out big monsters with singular attacks, or something, something like that. Whereas in fourth edition, you're taking out monsters slowly with several attacks, and it takes focused effort over a period of time, over a round or two, to take out monsters, and sometimes more than that for big elites or solo monsters. Um, I would change that up a bit, and that partially comes back to point number one about streamlining combat. I think it would help the game be more dynamic if you had an adjusted ratio of damage to hit points, so that so that the damage goes up a little bit, hit points go down a little bit, but not quite to the extent that earlier editions were. I think it's a good thing what fourth edition did. It just did it too much. And I think backing that up just a little bit would probably be a good idea. But that's all just math stuff. That's up to the that's all got to be play tested, and that's they'll figure out how it works, I'm sure. That's all I can think of for right now. Those are the major issues that I had with fourth edition. That's about it. Because I think fourth edition so far has been the best edition of D&D produced, and I know there's a lot of people who want me dead for saying that, but that's my opinion, and as far as I know, it's the opinion of everyone in my group too. So yeah, I'm potentially excited. Let's say I have a lot of potential excitement. I don't get excited about games until I learn more about them. I need to see previews. I need to see mechanics, maybe some concept art. One of the things when fourth edition was being developed, one of the things they mentioned was how quick and easy it is to create NPCs and monsters. And they gave an example of they needed an encounter against some gnolls, and so it took the guy writing the article 15 minutes, he said, to create a couple of fighters and a mage of these gnolls, and that was amazing to me at the time. I had no idea how they could possibly manage that, because I was in the third edition mentality of writing up an entire stat block for every monster, just like it was a player character, which means at very high levels, spellcasters became exceedingly complex. But it turns out that fourth edition had an entirely different take on how to build monsters, and it was very streamlined. You really could create monsters in 10-15 minutes. As opposed to the hour or two that it would take in third edition. That's something that I really don't want to change, is how easy fourth edition is to DM. Keep that. Everything that contributes to that, stay there. Don't change it. Don't mess with a good thing. The reason I run fourth edition and not third is because I have gotten spoiled on how easy it is to run this game. I think the philosophy behind fourth edition was good. It was solid. I agree with it almost 100%. And I think it could be implemented more. I think there's areas of fourth edition that harken back to a day where, let's just say in programming terms, there's legacy code in fourth edition. There are mechanics that don't really belong there, but they're there because they've been in Dungeons and Dragons since forever. I would like to see Vancian spellcast. Excuse me. I would like to see Vancian spellcasting and the Vancian power structure to be gone entirely. Something that I saw one time, someone suggesting entirely encounter-based resources. No daily resources. At the end of every encounter, hit points, any other supplemental health resource, such as healing surges in 4th edition, if they happen to stay around. No daily powers. Everything's encounter or at will. Or even recharge. Recharge is a fun mechanic. As a DM, I like using monsters that have recharge powers. I think using them as a player would be fun too. So those are my ideas, things that I'm throwing out there. Obviously, we'll have to wait. It's not going to be until this summer. No, I think they said this spring when more details would be released. So it's going to be a few months before we get anything else, anything more than it's coming. So yeah, I'll keep you guys apprised. All like 3 of my subscribers, uh, which are all people that I know, and I could just tell anyways, and probably don't care. Um, anyways, what I'd like to do when 5th edition comes out, and I was kind of planning on doing this for 4th edition, but there are technical difficulties with getting it done in 4th edition. But when 5th edition comes out, what I'd like to do is run through a tutorial, how to make characters, how to run a game, etc., etc. Which I could do right now. I have the ability to explain these things, but I need to get people together to run through all that. And 4th edition, I think, has become, due to its plethora of options, has become difficult to start in. I think it's difficult to learn the game from nothing, to make your first character. It took me 2 hours the other day to walk a couple of friends of mine through making characters so we could play 1-hour game session. So 5th edition, hopefully, that's another thing. Hopefully we'll have a more streamlined character creation process. I might touch on that when I have more information about the system. Make it easier and faster to create characters. Yeah, I will talk more about this subject when more details are released. You can bet on it. I am very interested in this subject, but like I said, I'm holding off my excitement until I see more.